Hello, welcome to Web of Stories. My name is Melinda, and I've learned something about myself, and that's that I love a reading project. I have a couple of ongoing reading projects. I'm reading Agatha Christie. I am doing my Shakespeare Bard Room, which you have seen July's draw yesterday. And I decided to start another one, and this one is going to be ongoing. It's going to take a long time. It's going to take at least 52 videos. And I'm crooked. It's one of my videos. I have to straighten up my camera in one of my videos. And I don't have a set schedule for it because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking you all on a trip to the United States. Each state plus the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, both of which should be states. And in this, I'm going to give you 3 book recommendations that I feel really brings something about that state to life, and 3 things you should visit if you ever go there. So this is a massive project, and I have a spreadsheet going, and so I'm still working on the spreadsheet. So first of all, if you live in the United States and you have a book that you think really represents your state, please put it down below, and I might get to it. You might see it in the video. But I do have one state that I'm ready to go with, and there should be no surprise that it is my state. And that is Oregon. Now, I have done a video before. I think I did a 5 on Friday where I did 5 books from Oregon. I can't even remember what books those were. So we're just going to say there's that. If I can find it, I'll link it down below. But I'm going to start fresh on this because I do have 3 books. Actually, I have 4. 3 books that I think really bring some aspect of Oregon to life. And I am going to start, these are all written by Oregon authors and set in Oregon. And the first one is probably, if not the most famous, one of the 2 most famous authors from Oregon, and that would be Beverly Cleary. Now, we all know, by the way, I'm putting the video of the books up here because of the 3 books that I have to recommend, I don't have all of them in print, and the ones I do have in print are in piles. So they're just all going up there. So the first one is Beverly Cleary, and we all know Beverly Cleary because of Ramona and Henry Higgins, and I love those books. I read them to my kids. They mostly hold up. The only way I found out that they don't hold up is some of the language, like in the early, I think it's Beezus and Ramona, which is one of the earliest books. They're taking a carriage out. They have a baby doll in a buggy, and they call it a perambulator, which I had to look up. I didn't know what that was. If you live someplace where those are called a pram, you probably know that. But here they're called baby buggies. So, so Beverly Cleary, any of her books, although a couple of her books are set in California. Later in her life, she did move to California. And she actually, when she died at the age of like 102 or 103, she was in California at the time. But the one I'm going to focus on is not a Ramona book. It's actually probably her most autobiographical fiction novel. It's middle grade. This one's Emily's Runaway Imagination. It is set in a town that is based very much on McMinnville, which is a town that's like 20, 30 miles south of here. Beverly Cleary lived there as a young child. She lived there in Yamhill and in McMinnville. Yamhill's another town, much smaller. It's a fictionalized town though. And it's set late 19th century, early 20th century, around there. This is great if you are a fan of things like Little House on the Prairie because it has that same sort of pioneer feel. I would actually say it's a better comp to it is Anne of Green Gables. There is a drunken scene in there. Of course, this time it's pigs, not her best friend. So, but it's very delightful, just about life in this little town. There is an element where she deals with a member of the town who is from China that I think holds up fairly well. It's not perfect, but this book is old. And it probably it was a lot more respectful for other cultures at its time than a lot of books written then. But I remember loving this as a kid, and it's not one that people really think about, but I think it brings small town Oregon to life really well. And it's delightful. It's just a delightful story. If you like Anne of Green Gables, the Ellen Montgomery books, this is like a great little comp to that. Okay, my second book is the most famous book and most famous movie to ever come from my hometown of Salem, Oregon. And this is a classic. but it is not for the faint of heart. This is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. So this is set at the state hospital, which is it's a mental hospital. It does still exist in Salem. It is very small now. Like the building, the complex is still there and it's very big. They have a museum there, in fact, but the actual part of it that provides any kind of care has become quite small. It's a very old building. And this, of course, was made really famous by the movie starring Jack Nicholson and a lot of other people. Like I watched that movie, I don't know, last year or something after I read the book, and I knew Jack Nicholson was in it. I didn't know Christopher Lloyd was in it. I think Danny DeVito is in it. I mean, there's a lot of names in this movie, and it's filmed in Salem, so it was really great to see my hometown. But this deals a lot with mental health care. You follow a character who has been sent to the state hospital, and you always kind of wonder if he really should be there. He kind of says he shouldn't. He just kind of told a story to get out of prison because he had raped someone. But the more you get to know him, you kind of think maybe he does belong there. So there's really iffy there. We have one of the people consider her a great villain. I think she is more villainous in the movie than she is in the book. I will say that's personally my own take. I think that there is a reading of her that is not maybe as villainous in the book, but Nurse Ratched. I mean, just her name, Nurse Ratched, has become a synonym for like evil nurses, Nurse Ratched. Excellent book, excellent movie. It is a very hard read. There are some pretty hard things in it. I'm really glad that I finally read it. It took me a long time to read it. It's not long. It is not a long book, but it is definitely worth it. I will say there's one point in the book where they kind of break out and they go fishing in Florence, which is a town on the Oregon coast. That's kind of the north part of the South Coast. If you see the movie, they go to Depot Bay, which is also on the Oregon coast. I have to point that out. It's like one of the big changes from the book to the movie that really stood out to me. I'm like, that's not Florence. That's Depot Bay. I know, I've been there. Great book, great movie, highly recommended. And then One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest definitely was a hard book. This next one is probably even harder. And this one is The Butterfly Girl by Renee Denfield. So this is the second book in her Naomi Cottle series. I think there's only 2 books in it. I think it's a duology. Neither one are easy reads. The first one is The Child Finder, who's Naomi Cottle, and she is someone, she grew up in the foster care system, although she was she was fortunate in that she had a very positive experience with her foster mother. And I will say that's something that I do like to see. I'm not trying to discount some of the horrible stories that have happened to people with foster care, but there's also another side of foster care that never is mentioned. And that's when it actually is positive and it really does help people. And so I really appreciate that in these books. But anyway, Naomi Cottle, she grew up in that, and now she has become someone who finds missing children. The first book is The Child Finder. This is the second book, which is The Butterfly Girl. This one is set in Portland, and Portland, unfortunately, is known for its unhoused population. And it has become a little bit of a mecca for unhoused teenagers to come here because there's a lot of reasons why they would come here. And I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole other video, but there is a pretty big, and this is a pretty big population. And this book deals with, I think she's like 12, a girl who's living there. And she makes a connection with Naomi, and plot ensues. Naomi at the same time is trying to find backstory with Naomi. She was orphaned. She had a sister. And at some point in all of this, she was separated from her sister, and she's trying to find what happened to her sister. So that's happening too. This paints a brutally honest picture of the homeless situation in Portland, especially when it comes to teens and younger children. Renee Denfield herself had been homeless. She had been in the foster system. She has since become a foster parent and has adopted out of the foster system. So she really does know what she's talking about. Wonderfully written. I recommend both books. The Child Finder set more like out. It's like out on Mount Hood in the wilderness sort of thing. But The Butterfly Girl's really Portland. And the bonus book, because I'm sure you went, oh, she went through this, and in that book was not one of them. So the bonus book, of course, not every state's going to have a bonus book. In fact, this is the only state that's going to have a bonus book. And I bring it out Actually, I don't think it is buried. Hold on a sec. Okay, this book I could actually get because I have put some risers in on my bookshelves to try to minimize the piles. There's still piles until I figure out what I'm doing with the bookshelves. And this one was too tall to sit on the riser, so it's just sitting on top, but I could easily get it. And if you've watched my channel, you know what book this is. Mink River by Brian Doyle. This is a magical realism book. This is, if you don't know, my favorite book. Bar none. This is my favorite book. I will also say it's a very personal favorite book. The things that I really, really love about this book are very personal to me. So, you know, if you pick this book up and you're like, well, that's nice, but I don't see why it's your favorite. That's why, because it's very personal. But it is set in a town, a fictional town, but it could be a real town. It is an excellent portrait of just a typical Oregon town on the Oregon coast. A lot of magical realism. This crow, his name is Moses. He talks, not like a parrot talks, like just repeats things. He has like philosophical conversations with people. You get to meet the people of this town and their own personal journeys. The town itself just jumps off the page. It is set, they never tell you when this book is set, but I can tell you when this book was set. This book was set in the late 70s, early 80s, because that was the time when the timber industry was really in a decline in Oregon. I mean, the timber industry was once the big industry in Oregon, and there's still a timber industry. It's just not what it used to be. But the timber industry used to be really big in the Cascade, or not the Cascade, the Oregon Coast Range. And still, if you go through, you can see clear cuts. But it was in decline, which was really hurting a lot of the small towns on the Oregon coast. But it was before Oregon coastal tourism sort of spread out of a handful of larger towns. So it used to be Florence, that I've mentioned before, Newport, Lincoln City, Seaside, Cannon Beach. Like, those were the 5 towns that had any kind of tourism. Now they all have it, but this was before that. So it's right in that window. And the fact that I can tell you exactly when this book takes place when it doesn't tell you, it says a lot about how well it is written. But I fell in love with the people in this place. I fell in love with the place. It's just, I fell in love with the writing. You know, I love Brian Doyle's writing. There is a follow-up. I'm not going to call it a sequel because it's not really a sequel. You could actually read it without reading this book. Although if you read this book, you're going to want to read that book called The Plover. I won't tell you what that book's about because it will spoil a story. Just telling you what it's about will spoil a storyline in this book. It brings the magic of the Oregon coast to life. So that's your bonus pick because you knew I had to mention it. But my other 3 are Emily's Runaway Imagination by Beverly Cleary, one of my favorite books as a child. The most famous book from my hometown, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and The Butterfly Girl by Renee Denfield. So now let's talk about if you decide to come to Oregon, what should you go see? Well, the first item, I have 3 things that I would like, the top 3 things I would tell people they should go see. The first one is, no surprise, go to Powell's. Go to Powell's World of Books in downtown Portland on 10th and Burnside. Powell's is the largest independent bookstore in the country, might even be in the world. It is an entire city block. You should probably get a map of the store to go there because it's all over the place. And I was there recently when they were moving things. That was fun. Don't recommend that, but it is great. And also, if you're just like me, and one of the things that when you go to a bookstore you look at are like the staff picks and the display tables where they do things by themes because you already know about all the other books. They're top notch. I've never been to a bookstore that does it better than Powell's does. You just need to go to Powell's. Like, if you go to Oregon and don't come to Powell's, like, I don't even understand it. There are other Powell's. There is a Powell's in the town over from me, and that's the one I actually normally go to, which is fine. I go to the downtown Powell's World of Books when I go see plays with Bookish Best Friend because this Portland Center stage is like a block away. But if I just am going to the bookstore, I usually go to the one near me, which is a great bookstore as well, but it feels more like it feels like a Barnes & Noble, but it is a lot closer and the parking's better. There's one on the other side of town, and then in a little town called Condon, Oregon, is the world's smallest Powell's, and it's like a little corner of their general store. They have a little Powell's in there. But definitely go to Powell's. Go to the Oregon coast. just anywhere on the Oregon coast. Go to any of it. Lots of towns, as I talked about in Mink River, lots of towns on the Oregon coast. Your big ones are in the North Coast. You have Cannon Beach and Seaside. Seaside has it has a boardwalk. It has that sort of family fair feel. It feels like a little fair feel. Is that way? Too many F's. It's a family-friendly place, okay? It is. Cannon Beach, which is, I always forget, I think it's just south. Just north, I don't know, they're right next to each other. Cannon Beach is like the bougie little town, but it's pretty. That's where Haystack Rock is. And then the Central Coast, your big towns are Lincoln City and Newport. And between Lincoln City and Newport is Depot Bay, which I talked about. And they're great. Newport has the Oregon Coast Aquarium, which is an excellent aquarium. They used to have a whale. They had Keiko, the orca from Free Willy. He lived there for a while before they set him free and he died. But it's a great aquarium. It's also right next to the Marine Science Center, which is free. It's free. It's run by Oregon State University. That used to be a base of NOAA around there, but who knows now because of... Lincoln City is just another little great place, big open beach. And then if you go to the southern part... you have Florence kind of in the northern part of the southern part. So that's an interesting little town. That's where the sand dunes are. So if you want to go see the sand dunes, that's where you go there. And then if you go farther south, you have, right south of that is Coos Bay, which is a cute town, but really depressing. It's very depressing. It was a timber town and now it's cute, but yeah. And Bandon is another one that's down there, which in the southern coast, the southern part of the state, the coasts are really dramatic because they have more of the big rocks sticking up. It's really cool. So definitely the Oregon coast, anywhere on the Oregon coast. Now my third one, I'm sure you're going to say, oh, go see Crater Lake. Crater Lake is cool. I'm not denying that, but I would not say go to Crater Lake. I would say go to Silver Creek Falls State Park, which is by Silverton, Oregon. So it's kind of halfway between Portland and Salem. It is an hour from Portland. In any other state, it would be a national park. The reason it's not a national park is because it is not an old growth forest. It has been, lumber has gone through there, but a long time ago. So it feels like an old growth forest now because the trees are really big, but they have beautiful, beautiful waterfalls there. There is the Trail of 7 Falls that you can hike through all of them. Although I have a tip if you do that, have 2 cars and park at the South Falls and then park at the North Falls and then shuttle instead of doing the whole loop because the hike between the North Falls parking lot and the South Park is right along the road and it's boring. So I would just skip the whole loop and just do that. But gorgeous. It's gorgeous any time of the year, spring, summer, fall, winter, although it's dangerous in winter because everything's icy. Wonderful. And you just pay parking, which is like $5. So it's a lot cheaper than a national park and it's a lot closer to other things. I mean, Crater Lake is great. If you ever go to Crater Lake, go left when you enter. Don't go right, go left. We went right and then everything was on the wrong side of the road for us. So it's a loop around the lake. So if you go to Crater Lake, go left. But Silver Creek Falls, it does tend to be crowded because it is so cool. But if you love to hike, if you love photography, just go there. So those are my 3 places to go in Oregon and my 3+1 books to visit Oregon on the page. And stay tuned. We'll see what the next state is. And again, if you live in the United States and you have a book from your state that you feel really illustrates some aspect of your state, put it down below and it might end up as one of my recommendations. We'll see. Okay, that's it for now. We'll see when the next one comes out. Like, subscribe, join my Discord, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Oh, before I go, one thing. I'm saving these all in the playlist. I will link the playlist below. So right now it's one video. But as more videos come, you will find them down there, okay? So yeah, like, subscribe, join my Discord, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.